Hello everyone and welcome to Fifth North. Today I'm talking about the 5 things that I absolutely love about my Vitpilen 401. Number 1 on the list is going to be the overall look of the bike. I love cruisers, I love sport bikes. I think there's a lot of really good looking motorcycles out there. But I think a lot of times when you get into the less expensive bike realm, I'm talking about like 5-6 grand or less, bikes tend to look pretty watered down. Like in my opinion, they look clearly, not all, but most, look clearly cheaper than their bigger siblings, right? And what I love about this bike, the Vitpilen 401, is it looks really good regardless of the price range. I think it's just a good looking bike. And the style of the bike is really cool. I get a lot of questions on, hey, what is that thing? Or I get a lot of compliments on, whoa, that's a really cool motorcycle. I've never seen anything like it. And I think that's really cool because it just doesn't look like a lot of bikes that are on the road. So overall, I love the look of it. I love that it's like a cafe racer, but not like a traditional cafe racer. It's kind of a, I don't know, I refer to it as a retro futuristic cafe racer because it's got this like old school look, but then it's got this like future, thing going on too. So it's a really good balance. Really good balance of looks in my opinion. And then I think, you look at the colors, the matte satin white looks really good. I mentioned in my 5 things I don't like video that I don't like the actual color accents on mine, but that's a whole different video. If you guys haven't seen it, go ahead and check it out by clicking the link up here. But anyway, number 1 on the list, I really like the overall look of this bike. Definitely cool, definitely something I think is going to look good for a long time. And it's definitely one of my favorite things about this motorcycle. Number 2 on the list of things that I like about the Husqvarna Vitpilen 401 is going to be the headlight. Now I know that might sound kind of random, but on some bikes the headlight really makes or breaks the look of the front of the bike. And a lot of headlights, they look too old school for me. Like it looks like your bike belongs in the 1970s, right? It's like a halogen bulb, simple, round, nothing exciting about it. And to save money, Husqvarna could have simply done that on this bike and completely ruined the look of it. But instead, they decided to go with an LED unit, which has, a design in it, right? It's not just a round bulb. It is still a round bulb, but you have the cut across, you've got the edges on it. You got a couple of other things going on to make it look more exciting and more interesting than just, a round aluminum piece with a bulb in the middle. And I like the fact that it's LED. Obviously LED is way more efficient, wastes less battery, all that kind of good stuff, and it's brighter. I've only ridden a couple of times at night with this bike, but the headlight is more than bright enough for me to feel comfortable. And then obviously you have the high beam too, which is plenty bright. And then the other thing I like about it too is it does have a daytime running light. So that's kind of a cool feature as well. So again, number 2 on the list, I love the look of the headlight on this bike. I think it definitely adds to and makes the front of the bike look better than what could have been. Number 3 on the list of things I like about the Vitpilen 401 is going to be the overall weight of the bike. You guys have probably heard me say this in previous videos where I don't like heavy bikes. There's a fine line to when I consider something heavy and when I have to essentially fight or wrestle the bike the entire time I'm riding it. To me, that's not a fun or comfortable experience. That's man, this road is bumpy. That's a workout, right? And what I like is to just have a bike that's light on its feet, very easy and nimble to flick around and have fun with. And a bike like this one, it's got a pretty short wheelbase. It only weighs, like 3,500 pounds. And so when you find yourself like in an urban riding situation, when you find yourself in a tight spot situation, this bike is extremely maneuverable. And a lot of that is because of the weight. It's very easy to to flick around, very easy to get through tight spaces. And the other thing I like about it too is that it's light enough to be approachable for young, and I don't mean young by age, but young by experience riders. Case in point, actually, I started teaching my wife how to ride a motorcycle yesterday, and sitting on my Vit, she felt very comfortable, and she commented on, I thought it was going to be much heavier. I thought I was going to have a harder time keeping it in place. And she had no trouble doing that, which is great because again, you don't want to feel overwhelmed or feel like you're fighting your motorcycle while you're trying to ride it. So I love the weight of it. I love that, you know, it's really good for urban commuting, but it's also, you know, good enough for other things. I just love the weight. I feel relaxed and comfortable on it. I'm not having to work out. So that's number 3 on the list. All right, so number 4 on the list of things that I love about my Vitpilen 401 is gonna be the power. And let me explain that a little bit. So, does this bike have tons of power? No, it's not a super sport. It's not rocking 100, 200 horsepower, you know, or whatever the case might be. The bike makes about, you know, 45 horses or so. But here's the thing about the power. The power to weight ratio, in my opinion, is really good. And again, not trying to win drag races here, but just having enough power to have fun, having enough power to go as fast as I want to go, and having enough power in any sort of, you know, situation that I might find myself where I'm, you know, driving on a public road, right? If I'm on a racetrack, this thing is severely underpowered. That's not the point. The point is in public roads where you have speed limits, where you have limits on what you can do, this bike has more than enough power. Now, it's not just about having the power, it's about how the power is delivered. I think that it is very smooth and very linear. And again, I mentioned previously teaching my wife how to ride. You know, I was a little bit worried about how well she would do with throttle response, right? Was the throttle too twitchy? Is the throttle too sensitive? And she did really well, actually. And she has literally no experience riding motorcycles up until yesterday. So, again, I love the power delivery being smooth and linear. I love the way this bike has enough power to have fun on it, but it is more than approachable for a beginner rider who wants to learn. And again, I go back to what I said in my very first video on this bike. When you buy a 250 to start off with, it's very approachable and very safe and very, you know, gentle, if you will. And that's great, but within like 6 months, you're going to be bored. And that's why I like this bike, because it's approachable, it's comfortable, it's not going to scare you, right? I mean, it can scare you a little bit, but it's not where it's too powerful or too scary for a new rider to learn on. But then at the same time, it's got enough guts where 6 months after learning how to ride, you're not going to be bored. Case in point, we already, you know, hit 60. That was no time at all, and I wasn't even on full throttle. So, like I said, it's got more than enough power to keep you happy, more than enough power to have fun. All at the same time, very approachable, is good enough to learn on, and gives pretty good gas mileage too, so no complaints. Anyway, that's number 4 on my list of 5 things. Alright, so for number 5 on the list of things that I love about my Vitpilen 401 is I'm going to go back to the argument of inexpensive bike versus cheap bike. So again, anytime you have an inexpensive bike, it's very easy to fall into the cheap category. And obviously manufacturers have to cut costs to be able to give you that entry-level price point like, you know, the Vitpilen has. And one area where I think a lot of its competitors fall short is going to be the gauge cluster. The gauge cluster can look super cheap if not done correctly, but also can get very expensive if not done correctly. So finding that perfect balance of, you know, inexpensive but still functional and good looking it's a fine line, right? And I think the Vitpilen 401 did a great job. You know, what I love about it is a couple of things. One, you've got all digital instrumentation, which I like. I think analog is cool, but it only looks cool on certain types of bikes. And I go back talking about this bike kind of having a futuristic cafe racer look to it. So having an all digital gauge makes sense to me. The other thing I like about it is you've got a tachometer running around the outside of the speedometer. And so it's very quick and easy to look down and just see everything you need to see. Now granted, I don't look at the tachometer as I ride, you just kind of feel it. But if ever I need to know something, I can look down and see it, right? And it's got everything else that you might need. It's got all the basics that are essential. You've got, you know, your temperature gauge, you've got your fuel level, you've got distance till empty, you've got a clock, which I need to program still because the battery got removed a couple of days ago and it messed up the clock. But again, very easy to read. I've not had any situations where I had a hard time reading it. I'm out here in Dallas, Texas, where it gets very bright and sunny, and I've had no issues with, you know, visibility in the bright sunlight. I've had no issues with visibility in like a dark tunnel. It does light up at night. And then you've got a couple of settings in there too. You can change, you know, your trip meters. You can see different things you can program, like a red light for the shift light. So a couple of little features. Nothing too complicated, nothing too complex. You don't have like rider modes or anything else crazy like that. But for the price point of the bike, it gives you quite a bit. And most importantly, it's very, very functional and very easy to read while looking good, in my opinion. So that's number 5 on my list. I love the gauge on this bike. It definitely fits the bike well, and it functions without issue. So that's it for this video. Those are my 5 things that I love about the Vitpilen 401. And those are just 5 things. Honestly, overall, I'm really happy with the bike. I really like it. I think it fits my needs perfectly. And I would highly recommend it to anybody who's looking at it. I think you'll be very, very happy with it as well. You know, from a bang for buck ratio, from a fuel standpoint, from a power standpoint, a weight, I mean, everything about it is more than good enough, and more than enough to make you happy and smile. So that was my list of 5 things, but there's so much more to it than just those 5 things. Anyway, if you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button for me. And if you're not already subscribed, hit the subscribe button for me as well. It does help my channel out quite a bit. With that being said, I'm going to go get in a couple more miles, do some more riding, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace. I wanna rock, do, 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 do. I want to rock, do, 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 do. Bam, 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 bam. No amount of wind noise or engine sounds can help correct the fact that I cannot sing to save my life.